All right, you little buckos, you little buckaroos. It's time to buckle in for another episode of Paleocrat Diaries. I'm your host, Jeremiah Bannister, and hold on a second. I just realized this. Uh-oh. I almost started with my inferior set of headphones. Can't do that. Not when I've got the old Skogies right here. Named after their number one fan, in fact, and all of his cronies on Twitter, who loved him. If you don't understand what this is all about, you're going to have to go and you're going to have to watch my previous episode on YouTube at youtube.com/Paleocrat, which you should be doing anyway. Just put on the playlist and just watch all of them. But the last episode, I was sporting these as the first time. And I bought them. I thought they were pretty dope. So yeah, these are obviously super fancy. I mean, very expensive set of headphones. Obviously more expensive than my Koss Pro 4AA's over there, which are amazing headphones, by the way. I told my friend Chad Lutsky, the author of Skullface Boy and many other amazing books, I told him about the whole fallout, the train wreck in the comment section on Twitter when I shared that video with these headphones. And I told him, I said, look, there's a lot of these people who... They hated these headphones, man. They were calling me, cringe. Oh, man, that's like totally cringe. Take off those headphones. And I'm thinking, what's cringe is actually the fact that you're saying cringe in that way. I mean, you're about as original as those goth kids going into Hot Topic who don't conform to anybody or anything but look and sound exactly like all of their friends. But my friend told me, he said, look, you have to wear those in the next video. Because if you don't, then the cronies won. And so... I gotta wear them. But anyway, it's been fun. And you know what? It's been 3 weeks, which has not been fun. That's, in fact, been a terrible bummer. And I'm going to tell you all about it. About 3 weeks ago, I got sick. And it was the kind of sickness that's particularly wicked for someone in my line of business, and that is in the throat. People who've listened for a long time, right? People who are Paleocrats or card-carrying members of the Paleonaughty, part of the cult, those people may have heard kind of probably right in here a little bit of that tone low action going on. And it has not been fun, especially because this is what I do. I talk into microphones. And if my voice is jacked, then I can't talk into microphones. And if I don't talk into microphones, I don't make that mad cash. Making all that money, making that mad loot, right? So it's been a particularly upsetting ordeal. I've lost my voice before, a little, but never, ever anything quite like this. My doctor probably slapped me silly knowing I'm doing what I'm doing right now. But it was only till a couple days ago that it even got to this point where I felt comfortable enough to say, I got to make a video. It's been too long, right? I've got to do it. It's what I'm paid for. But I was trying to think, what should I say? And in fact, it wasn't that I didn't have anything to talk about. It's that I had so many different things to talk about. Because in that time, while I was away, I did something that I really don't know how often I've ever done. And I don't even know the last time I ever really did it. And that was to just be quiet. To not talk. It's been something that has been really difficult for me since I was a kid. One of my earliest memories, I think, was some old lady telling me to shut up, right? In church, be quiet, something like that. All grown up, every one of my teachers would say the same thing. They'd tell my parents, hey, Jeremiah's a great student, very gifted in a lot of different ways, but he just doesn't know when to listen and when to talk. People made fun of me and said, you must really love your voice. If you love your voice so much, why don't you just go and marry it? I thought, hey, after, I don't know, the 10 billionth time hearing that, I figured, why not? Why not marry my voice to a career talking into microphones? And for the most part, with the exception of my time as the chief aide to John Tomeke of New Jersey League of American Families, as well as my work in journalism, when I did investigative reporting, particularly on the Battle Creek Police Department, when I did that, I wasn't really talking often into microphones. That was time away from radio and vlogging and everything else. But I've been on TV. I've been a disc jockey. I started when I was 15 years old, talking into microphones. I grew up around it. My dad was in it. So even when I was a kid, I remember early Sunday mornings looking up on the wall, seeing posters of a young Rush Limbaugh, thinking, man, I'd love to talk into one of those golden microphones one day. You know? So when someone like me loses their voice, it's already something that is a bummer. But it gave me a good opportunity. Once I completely lost it and I wasn't able to talk, and I said, this is too hard for me. Not even going to mess around with it. Once that happened, then I decided, you know what? I'm going to try to do something different. I'm going to listen. And that was a good idea. While I was being quiet, I decided I wanted to catch up on lectures. I used to listen to lectures on tape. And even on CDs, I'd buy them. That's my favorite thing to do, even in a car. You know, I have people cranking up music next to me, bass music, and I'm cranking up some philosophy lecture or something over the loudspeakers, rolling my window down, acting all thuggish. And I was also catching up on some music, but not, you know, I have a rule. It's self-imposed, and it predated my sickness. And the rule is, if I've heard a song 100 times, turn it off, okay? Try to hear something new. And so I was searching around, and I discovered a friend of mine that I went to school with as a rapper. His name's T.Y. And he's in this song. He's featured with a guy by the name of Mark Miles. Miles is M-I-L-E-Z. You can find it on YouTube. And the song is Any Moment. And I encourage everybody to go listen to it. Okay, go check it out. I'll put the link as well as additional things in the description below. But the lyrics to Any Moment, as I was listening, I decided to listen with a great amount of intentionality. Not to just listen to it in the background so that, you know, I'm multitasking. Because I think that puts the mind in a blur. I said, I want to listen to the words. I want to listen to the lyrics. I want to hear how he's doing. And I was blown away. But I was blown away by the lyrics. And I want to talk about some of them. And in talking about them, I want to allow that to kind of play into other things that I was thinking about when I wasn't talking. Because I felt that through all of those experiences and all of those things that were running through my mind, that there was a thread. And I believe that thread is best summarized not by any one of the individual events that took place in that 3-week period of time, but rather that was experienced as I was listening to the lyrics and as those ideas and experiences are expressed lyrically in that song. So he talks about how his life's been looking like a crash course and how he's made mistakes and he can't take them back now. And still he wonders why he's underneath this black cloud. And I thought about that. And it seemed the timing was great too, because we'd been at the Demolition Derby. And I'd already been thinking about this, about how life is like a Demolition Derby a little bit. And so to hear this idea of a crash course, the imagery was there. And I was reflecting on my own life and thinking, you know, I'm going to be honest. I mean, I'm fat as hell. I'm overweight. I need to lose probably 45 pounds. I think I do pretty good at carrying it proportionally on my body. But the truth is, I know what I look like with my shirt off. And I don't like what I see. Okay? I haven't liked what I've seen since I was in the Navy. It's been that long. My house is a mess, with the exception of this room here. But this is a set. I mean, it's my office, but fundamentally, what I'm using it for here is a set. My yard is a wreck. Sure, I'm working on it, yes. But it's a wreck. And maybe most importantly, my book is not done. And it's embarrassing. Each one of these, my weight, my home, my yard, my lack of a book with my name on it, right? All of these things are frustrating. And they are evidences of mistakes that I've made, poor decision making. The song talks about capturing the moment and how you can get lost in it. I mean, that's true, but I don't really feel as if I'm lost in the moment. And if I am lost in the moment, then too often it's the worst kind of lost. And it happens in what could have been, would have been, and should have been the best kind of moments. I get lost in distractions constantly. I'm thinking about all the different things that I get distracted by. The internet, games, apps that literally brag, wearing it on their sleeve, that they are the most addictive games out there. You're going to be really addicted if you play this game. Okay, great, boink. No, bad. Super duper distracting. Even without those apps, a different game, social media. Right? Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Google, just searching for stuff. I really started thinking about this. I really started thinking, how often am I actually reaching in my pocket and trying to grab for my phone? And I resolved I'm not going to do it. I'm going to actually take some time away. I'm going to delete again certain apps from my phone, and I'm going to see how well I do. And you know what? It's terrible. It's like when I was quitting vaping. I would sit down somewhere and I'd reach for my vape. Oops, it's not there. Same exact thing was happening. I have certain triggers. If I go and I sit in the passenger seat of the car, my phone to go see what the news says. Why? Why do that? And how much of that is based on trivial pursuits anyway? I really started thinking about that. And I said, I wrote this down. I got it to say, how many Big Macs would I have to stack to make a bridge from Michigan to the moon? Okay. But I'm thinking to myself, that's the kind of dumb crap that I'm punching in there. How do you spell supercalifragilisticexpialidocious? Who cares? Well, I was just thinking about it. Who cares, man? What's the weather in Timbuktu? Who played that one role in that one movie? There's that one girl that said that one thing that time. I think we watched it once. Who cares? Stupid ideas like that make us think and go, oh, well, I'll just hurry up and just reach for my phone. Another excuse to just bleep, bloop, blop. I started thinking about, what do I look like to other people? What do I look like to my kids? When I put the phone down and 10 seconds later, I reach and grab it because my mind has been weaving and winding on different topics, and it made me think of some random thing that I just needed to think of right now to find the answer for. I was tempted to actually start writing them down and maybe even printing out my history to find out how bad is it. But I knew that it was super duper bad. So I said, no, not going to do that. I'm just going to say, yep, it's super duper bad and super intrusive into my life. And I'm going to try to stop. It caused me to remember a scene of something I saw when we were in London. So we were in London for my daughter's Make-A-Wish trip. She wanted to see the Doctor Who experience, the museum for the show Doctor Who. But when we were there, we would eat as a family. There was a family there that was sitting near to us, and 3 girls and the mom and dad. All of them were just looking at their phones. That's all they were doing for like 40 minutes. I don't think that they actually talked at all. And I thought, that's really sad. But it was easy for me to judge them, at least in a place where I couldn't be on. But then I realized maybe I'm not to that extreme. I don't sit there for hours and hours on end and not talk to my family. Especially when we're out to eat. I think that's rude to do. But at the same time, how much of my time has been spent like that? How often have my kids come to talk to me and I'm not really focused on what they're saying? I'm not giving them my attention because I'm more concerned about a comment, especially when you get caught up. And a lot of it's not just the drama of news, which is like tabloid, National Enquirer level stuff at this point, but also comment sections with nobodies, getting in arguments all the time. My last video was about an argument I got in, and that with a guy by the name of Timothy Gordon. which posting that resulted in me getting a whole bunch of arguments, including with the guy that I named my old headphones after. And since then, even gotten us in a little spat and scuffle with Michael Matt of The Remnant. What? I'm generally even on his side. I've gotten in arguments with my friends that if we were sitting face to face, we would have a really cool discussion over certain topics. Because we're friends. But yet, when I'm distracted by bleep, bloop, bloop, blop, distracted by all that stuff, I get angry. It dehumanizes. And the question I started asking myself when reflecting on all of this and really analyzing it silently and thinking about it, I asked myself, why am I doing this? I know better. I know better than to be constantly looking up stuff online just because it came to my mind. Just because I thought about it doesn't mean I have to look it up. I know what effect this has on my ability not only to retain information that I desire to retain, but to be able to focus and not to be distracted. I know what effect it has on my attention. Why would I do this? And I don't believe that there's a silver bullet here. It's not like a one-size-fits-all magic answer. It's multifaceted, different layers, and it's different for different people. But on this one, on the first part of this, I'm not entirely sure just how different it really is. People can say it, but I'm not entirely sure. And the first one is this: the medium. The medium. The medium is the message. And people sometimes have a difficult time understanding what this means. Even people who are involved in media. But how many of us who use YouTube or who've been online for as long as it's been around and been engaged with social media, how many of us have gone through seasons where we need to weed people out of our lives? Okay? You got to unfollow people. You got to unfriend people. You've got to mute people, block people, whatever you got to do. You might even shut down your account for a while. Sometimes pretty drastic stuff. Purges. How many of us have committed to the idea of trying to write things in a more positive way? To try to do better? To be friendlier? To be more constructive and less combative? And how often do we have to keep coming back to that? Because after a while, it just keeps on happening over and over and over. And the reason why is because it's not the content. It's not even really your friends. It's the medium itself. The medium itself, right? Facebook or social media or the internet. Those things, they have an impact. Regardless of what somebody says, it doesn't even matter what somebody says. Same thing with television. And you can read this over at Wikipedia. It's fantastic. But it says, in understanding media, McLuhan describes the content of a medium. So the stuff that people are writing about, the pictures, the videos, the status updates, the vlogs. Okay. This content is described as a juicy piece of meat carried by the burglar, the medium itself, to distract the watchdog of the mind. This means that people tend to focus on the obvious, which is the content, to provide us valuable information. But in the process, we largely miss the structural changes in our affairs that are introduced subtly or over long periods of time. And as society's values, norms, and ways of doing things change because of the technology, it's then that we realize the social implications of the medium. These range from cultural or religious issues and historical precedents through interplay with existing conditions to the secondary effects in a cascade of interactions that we are not aware of. Let this sink in. Think about it. How has our life changed since the introduction of social media? I can only imagine the exact questions were asked for other technologies too. So I want to actually cut that off ahead of time and simply say that this one is different in that it is more immediate. There's more integration. You listen to a radio. You listen and watch a television. You listen, watch, and participate in social media. It's an interaction. Back and forth. There's the senders and receivers on this, and it goes back and forth. But these have affected us. And I know, look, I'm a pretty traditional guy. And there are things that I lament about our modern society. Trends, norms, values. There are things that really worry me, in fact. I believe that we are in a cold civil war, for example. I'll be very frank about it. I believe that. And I think it's because the worldviews that the United States has are so divergent that it's practically impossible anymore to identify areas of common ground. And it's just getting worse and worse and worse. But there's things that I would like to see go back to be more traditional. And yet at the same time, I start to feel in many ways like the guy on YouTube that experiments with living like a caveman for a year as he sets up his tripod and records his stuff, sets it up for his scenes. Totally fake. It's LARPing. And I feel like so much of this is LARPing at this point. But that's the what. That doesn't answer the who. And the who in this particular situation of who's the problem. It's me. I'm the problem. My boy, Athlean X. Yeah, he's really my boy. No, the fitness guru. He talks about people in my range of body fat percentage. And talking about supplements and people, and I'm part of it. Look, that's one of my pitfalls. Yeah, if I just get this supplement, I think it's going to help me. No, if you're in this percentage, that's because of you, bro. That's because of you. And it's the same thing with this. It's the same thing with all these different issues in my life. And like the song says that my friend T.Y. sang, in some ways, I've been moving too fast, and in other ways, I'm moving too slow. I push super hard. At times, it's extremely manic. But I never have a game plan. It's like I'm winging it. And this leads to this kind of genvolation of life. And genvolation is a word, maybe somebody's used it before, but my dad's the first person I know who's used it. And it's about pastors. And I think anyone who grew up in church has probably seen a pastor or an evangelist who fits this description. And what it is that they don't study for what they're going to preach about. They're being led by the Spirit. It was a pastor in Pennsylvania who did that one time. I remember he sat there and he goes, "You know me," to his congregation. And he does this every week. I couldn't even believe it. But he ended up talking for an hour and a half about everything under the sun. Every different topic you could possibly talk about. There he is talking about it. Just a rambling man. And I feel like that's kind of what's been going on with my life. And yet, on the other hand, in some ways, I've been moving too slow. My sleep habit totally sucks. I sleep in till 8 or 9 sometimes. I make excuses to avoid the gym. Tons of my time is spent sitting down. And, like I mentioned earlier, I didn't even post to my site for 3 weeks. Even over the protestation of my wife, who is insisting, "Jeremiah, you got to do it." All of these things, all of the time that I've wasted, all of the time I've wasted being angry at randos, all of the time that I've spent looking up questions that don't matter, all of the time that I've spent clicking from one thing to another, to another, to another, over stuff that just simply doesn't matter. Rather than spending time with my wife, with my family, working on my home, writing my book, learning a second language, whatever it is, saving money, making money, I'm literally filled with regret over this. And I wish I could go back knowing what I know now. But that's also part of the problem, is that it's easy to get caught in the past. And you really cannot change it. T.Y. puts it great. Summed up my thoughts. I mean, this is amazing. He says, most y'all got dreams. You ain't even chasing it. Running errands, change appearance, disappearing, then embracing it. I can't see it in your face, but you're facing it. And he's right. I've got dreams. I want to do these things. I want to be fit. I want to learn another language. I want to write a book. I want to write a whole bunch of books. I want to make money. I want to be able to pay for my kids to go to a nice college. But am I really chasing it? Or am I just running errands? Am I changing my appearance? Am I disappearing? It reminded me of this quote by St. Cyprian. Alphonsus quotes him as saying that we're born with a halter around our neck, and that every step that we take brings us nearer to death. But St. Alphonsus adds to that, asking what we would say if we saw a man on his way to the place of execution, jesting, laughing, looking about in every direction, and thinking only of comedies, festivities, and amusements. Are not you now on your way to death? What then is the object of your thoughts? That's heavy. That's heavy. And that is me. That is me marching toward death, jesting, laughing, looking around, thinking only of comedies, festivities, and amusements. But at the same time, it's full of hope because it asks, what is the object of my thoughts? And insofar as I'm able to think about that, it means I'm alive. And if I'm alive, I can change it. I need to discover where I've gone wrong. And like the song says, I need to determine in my heart not to replicate it. Learn to live with the wrongs. Because the truth is, it's right to move on. You got to figure out what you want. Determine where you're going. And like T.Y. says, in the end, you got to make sure it's you that you're showing. Because the truth is, life is like a demolition derby. It's easy to get all muddy and mucky, busted up and patched together. Cheap parts. And it doesn't always turn out the way you want. Sometimes it rains, and a lot of times when it rains, it pours. And the truth is, you don't always win. Sometimes your car breaks down on the first lap. But the question is, what are you going to do? Did you put your time into it? Did you put your effort into it? Did you give it your best? Did you give up? Through it all, did you remember to keep on smiling? These are things that I put a lot of time and thought into while I wasn't able to talk. These are a lot of things that I'm going to need to put time and effort into in order to put into practice, to actualize them, to do more than to verbalize, but to visualize it so that one day I can reach the prize. That has to start today, you know. It has to start today. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put things into practice. If you don't see me very often on social media, now you know why. If you don't see me in comment sections, now you know why. If you see me in the gym, now you know why. If you see me losing weight, now you know why. And if you see my book in Barnes & Noble, now you know why.
Love this video? What a coincidence! I do too! Now head on over to Paleocratdiaries.com for more videos, blogs, parodies, and reviews, even Team Tiny Dancer stuff. And don't forget to check out our new members and services pages. It's how I pay for my kids to attend Catholic school. Until next time, Memento Mori.